I mean, I guess it's classism, you know. I wouldn't say is it an aspect of the film. It's not like I touch on that issue. But the whole point of the film is to give people that don't live in that environment a better understanding of it, better understanding of why we read about certain crimes that happen. I think if there's more awareness of why, you know, these guys are the way they are, then it means like, maybe there's no hope for them, maybe they're too far gone, but like if we kind of recognise that that is the problem, it means that we could probably spend a lot more money and time, you know, recognising who the younger generations are that are probably going to end up that way, and try and put as much energy in as possible to try and change that happening by intervening at a younger age, taking them out of comprehensive school, maybe putting them, you know, in a special school that's equipped for children like that. Yeah, you know. I went to a pupil referral unit. I got taken out of like regular school, and that helped me a lot. And so I know these schools work. Well, I wouldn't say that the film was based on that. The song came afterwards, and it was more a reaction to the riots that happened. And this film was kind of in the can before the riots happened. I just felt it was relevant because the kind of people that the film depicts are, you know, the underclass of our society, and those kind of majority of the people that was kind of involved in the rioting and looting. And you know, I think our society's reaction towards the riots was that, you know, these kids need to be locked up and punished. But you know, I think the whole point of the film is that they've been punished from, you know, the minute they was born. You know?
Right.
And obviously punishment doesn't work with these people, it makes it worse. And I really feel that the riots happen because you've got a generation of kids that don't feel like they're a part of our society and really feel like they have no future. Therefore, they're not afraid to get a criminal record, you know, when they see an opportunity to get something for free, like what happened with the riots. You know, They took it because they just thought, well, you know, I'm going to end up in prison one way or another. So, you know, I might as well take this opportunity to get some free shit.
Mm-hmm.
I shot the short film, decided I wanted to turn it into kind of a bigger story, and I wrote the script quite quickly and was ready to shoot the feature, but it was really difficult to get the money together, you know. And it was only after the success of my second studio album, The Defamation of Strickland Banks, which was like a soul record, which had elements of hip hop in it, which is also was a story. It was like a concept album. It was only off the back of that success really that things started becoming easier for me to get Ill Manors made, but I still ended up having to use my own money.
Okay.
And we shot the first initial shoot on 100 grand. 50% of the money was my money, 50% was from an organisation called Microwave Film London.
Okay.
So it's like a fund set up for first-time directors. Yeah, I mean, Michelle, like the short film is the same story as it is in the feature film. The feature film is about like a number of different individuals. She's one of them, and there's another character played by Natalie Press. It's called Katja, who's like being sex trafficked from Eastern Europe, and she's pregnant with a child, and she escapes from the sex trade, basically. So there are kind of females and stories that kind of focus on female characters, but essentially we're talking about a man's world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've heard some people describe the film as misogynistic, and I'll say it portrays men in a bad light, not necessarily women in a bad light, but that men are ruthless, chauvinistic bastards, you know, mostly, especially in those environments, and you know, I was raised by women and have a lot of respect and love for women. But I've also, you know, witnessed, you know, you know, in my own kind of, growing up in my own household, how, you know, that kind of male presence can actually sometimes be a negative one, you know, and it's like that on the street, and you know, when we're talking about turning the Michelle short film into a feature film where we focus on other characters and you know, male characters as well, you know, it wasn't a film about women, it was a film about the streets, and I would say that is mostly governed by kind of men, you know. I mean, in some ways, um, like Ed and Aaron, I guess, is based on me. And one represents my head and one represents my heart. You know? Because when you grow up in that environment, you get kind of you can't be too sensitive. You can't wear your heart on your sleeve. But the thing is, the way I'm built is I do wear my heart on my sleeve, and actually to survive through that environment, and especially in school, I had to learn how to hide my emotions, which is not a healthy thing. But it's a way of protecting yourself, stopping yourself, or preventing yourself from being manipulated and embarrassed by other people. You know, it's hiding your true feelings and putting a kind of act on. And that's what kind of Ed does. But, you know, although Aaron and Ed are polar opposites, you know, it's like yin and yang, you know. There's good and bad in everyone. The bad that's in Aaron, who Riz Ahmed plays, who's actually supposed to be the heart of the film. The bad in him is that although he has a heart and he does feel emotions and he wears his heart on his sleeve and it's hard for him to hide it, he does try to suppress it, you know, and he listens to Ed and allows Ed to manipulate him, you know. But when it comes down to it, Aaron makes the right choices, and I think that, you know, as human beings, we're constantly battling, you know, with how we feel and what we know is best, or at least what we think is best based on our past experiences. So, like the two kind of leading characters, yeah, I think they represent two different sides of me and the way I think and feel. And then with Michelle was based on a real character. She was a northern girl who was addicted to heroin, and she was a prostitute in my area. The character of Katja was played by Natalie Perez. She's based on a story that someone told me when I was working as a commis chef. Okay. And it was a story that always stuck with me. There's a guy, he was in the army and he was on leave and he was on a bus and he was in some third world country and he was on a bus with this woman and she had a baby in her arms and she asked him if he wanted sex, so he got off the bus and started having sex with her in this bush and the baby started crying. So she pulled the baby to her breast and breastfed the baby while he carried on, you know, doing what he was doing. And I remembered that when he told me this story, I was literally carrying the prep for the chefs through the kitchen. And he said, yo, Ben, come here. So I put the prep down and he told me this story. And when he finished, he just turned back around and carried on doing what he was doing. And I was just standing there like, why did you tell me this story? And picked up the prep and moved on, and it just stuck with me. And I couldn't get it out of my head, like the desperation of that woman. You know, that she would do something like that. And I had to try and understand it, because there's two ways you can look at that. You can look at that woman as a dirty whore, you know,
or just somebody
who's kind of scum of the earth, or you can look at it and know she's desperate. And she loves that child so much that she's doing what she needs to do in order to put kind of, you know, food on the table so that she can keep that child alive. So I had to try and, you know, make sense of it, and I feel that that's a great thing about music and film, that it can be like your therapy and you can make sense of why these things happen. So the characters are based on either people I've met, myself, based on myself, or they're based on stories I've read in a newspaper or somebody else has told me, where they've just told me that something's happened and they haven't told me how. And I'm just someone, I have to really, really like even come up with my own conclusion, even if it's fictional, you know, even if it's not the way it really went down. It's something that I can accept, you know, and that's what this kind of film was built on.
Okay.
I mean, it's difficult because it was kind of promoted as a kind of 15 certificate, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's got Riz Ahmed on the front holding a gun, and you know the trailer is just people pulling out guns. You know what I mean, like left, right, and centre, and you know, I think it's really extremely difficult to kind of encapsulate what the film's about in one image or you know one trailer, and I think that there's a lot of kind of 14, 15-year-old kids and upwards that really wanted to see this film, couldn't because it's an 18, because I kind of didn't compromise on the kind of language and the swearing. So in terms of it being a box office success, no, it wasn't that, you know, but the reviews we've had have been amazing, you know, and everyone who sees the films, you know, seems to really, really love it and think there's something special. I think, you know, in the UK we've just had the soundtrack from this film went straight to #1. You know, so we've had a lot of success with the music, and I think that when the film has this DVD release, it's going to grow and grow and become a lot bigger. It's just going to take time, and half of that may be biased because, you know, in my country I'm known as a musician, not a filmmaker. And we'll see. Like, I think this is a great movie for hip hop. And I think regardless of whether or not, like, you know, the American and Canadian kind of public can get down with the fact that, yeah, it's hip-hop, like, with, like, some strange British accent. I think no one's going to be able to deny the concept of this film and the originality of it, and I hope that it spawns others over here, you know, and create some kind of subgenre within filmmaking. You know, I would love that as long as it was done properly and done with the integrity that I've done this movie with. Yeah, and I think, you know, I don't know if I want to make another film like this again straight away. It was always my ambition to kind of mix my music with my film work, you know, like the soul album that kind of really made the name for me in the UK was a concept album about a character called Strickland Banks, who's like a soul singer who's wrongly convicted of a crime that he didn't commit and sent to prison. And I always wanted to do a film for it before the album came out, but you know, I hadn't proven myself as a director, and I guess I couldn't expect my record label to put the money up for a film, because you know they're a record label, they're not a film production company,
right.
You know, so they ran a mile. You know, from that idea, but I think I've changed that now. I think the next time I want to do an album that coincides with a film, I think we've kind of learned about the pitfalls that we had from this time around, and I think we're going to be a lot more well equipped. Do I want to do that as the next thing? Probably not. I think I want to do a more kind of traditional film next.
Okay.
But I just haven't decided what that is yet. You know, I mean, I haven't stopped working for the last 3 years, so I need a break. I need to get my head together and really decide what I want to do.